episode of our Raw Reaction Series show in which we react to the latest Arsenal news, views, matches, highlights, everything. I'm getting really sick of this. I'm not going to lie. I'm getting really, really fed up with this transfer window. Apologies for the lighting. I'm out in the conservatory because it's so warm. I needed some air, so apologies for the lighting on that. But audio should be fine. I just can't really get my head around where Arsenal are going at the moment. 1 minute, we're in for a fantastic young French, quick, speedy, fantastic defender in Upamecano, and now we're in for David Luiz. And I know I shouldn't really caveat my terminology and my tone with that, but it's hard to get excited about David Luiz. In fact, I'm going to throw up on the screen for you where this is coming from. So David Ornstein, Mr. David Ornstein, the Oracle, the one, the only Mr. David Ornstein, continuously filling our lives with continual hope and dread at the same time. He has told us that David Luiz didn't take part in first team training with Chelsea today. He was at their Cobham base and didn't refuse to do anything, but wasn't with the main group. Frank Lampard will comment on the situation pre-Man United news press conference on Friday. Of course, Friday is after the deadline, so that's a bit of an odd one. But it says here, David Luiz is among the options Arsenal are working on in terms of centre-backs and everything. Delicate, but not for the first time, because we did it last year in January of 2018. Kieran Tierney remains a target. Eddie Nketiah still decided, but likely to move to Leeds. And Alex Iwobi could still leave if Everton make a suitable offer. Oh, God. I'm so... You think that I would be anywhere near happy with doing these shows, but it's just becoming a fact where I'm now having to jump on live and talk about Arsenal being silly again. I put out a tweet. From the Gooner Talk account. In fact, let's get this up so you can see that. Just basically a poll in which you can follow us, by the way, at the Gooner Talk TV. A poll where I put up saying, I'm not going to turn around and say, do you want David Luiz? Because I know that the majority of you would say no, because we've been linked to the likes of Upamecano. We've been linked to Daniele Rugani. And so I wasn't going to be like, do you want him? Because it'd be silly to do that, because psychologically you're happy with these signings and then all of a sudden, bam, not getting those, now going for David Luiz. So I put the poll up that said, here's your choice. Would you rather have David Luiz or us not sign a centre-back? Now, thankfully, 76% of you decide to say that, yes, you would rather have David Luiz than no one. As Epidemic there says, Rugani has fallen through. Thank you ever so much for people who are tuning in. Gary says that Luiz is better than what we have in his opinion. Epidemic says, how do we go from Upper to David Luiz? Anthony's really pushing Daconum in the chat. Still not really in for him, though. And then we've got Abram, who says it's always the hope that gets you in the end, which is probably the perfect way to sort of sum up how this transfer window is going. I'm getting frustrated to the point where Arsenal themselves are not really being sensical. Let's be honest. Let's praise Raul Sanllehi when he does things right. We got to do that. Nicolas Pepe, fantastic. Saliba, fantastic. Sabas, fantastic. But if we go out and get David Luiz after we've been linked with some really top quality centre backs, it's going to be frustrating for fans. It's going to be frustrating to the point where it doesn't fill us with great success. I said earlier, if we don't sign a centre back, I'm at a 7 out of 10. Now, to say that we go from a 7 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10 in our transfer window, if we only sign David Luiz, I'm tempted to go up to a 7.5 maybe. It just doesn't inspire me. It really doesn't inspire me as a signing. I'm not pleased with it. Solo says Luiz can't even make the bench for the Brazil national team, which is fair enough. Brandon says David Luiz was solid last season. He'd be our best centre-back with Holding. I should highlight, and Miami John, who's obviously going to be on the podcast throughout the season, highlighted to me. He sent me the statistic comparisons between Socrates and David Luiz comes out on top a lot. He comes out on top for most of the statistics. But at the same time, Mustafi comes out on top with the statistics against Harry Maguire. So take that with a pinch of salt, it's fair to say. Calvin says Papa is better. Willie 1886 says, Tom, who would you rather we sign at this point in the transfer window? I think something is better than nothing with regards to our defence. I agree. I would rather sign David Luiz than sign no one. Elite says, how much would he cost? It's a good question. I'm not sure how much he would cost. I'm assuming it wouldn't be too much because he's coming towards... is he coming towards the end of contract? I feel like Ornstein said it's 2021. So 2 years left on his deal. I would say between 20 and 30 million, probably. But then you have to think, would Chelsea even sell to a rival? Does it make sense? It's buffering, apparently, is it? Sorry about that. In terms of the Wi-Fi, I'm hoping that it's fine. You can still see the chat. Hyperfrantic says, you can see they really want a passer of the ball, which he can do. It's just in terms of passing, I agree with that. But we need a defender that can defend, that can actually get stuck and do it. I'm just concerned at the mistakes that David Luiz makes. He's coming to the end. He's coming towards the very mature years of his career. He's been around for a very long time. I'm really struggling to get my head around this. Don't get me wrong. We need to sign a centre-back. We need to do that. But it's really difficult to sort of support the idea when we've been linked to some really, really difficult, obviously difficult, or really top-class players. And the fact that we're being linked to now David Luiz, it just puts me down. It doesn't fill me with any sort of hope. And I'm really struggling with that. Turkish there says he can do a job. He probably can. Ryan says that we're also in for MTT. That would be great. I'd much rather MTT over David Luiz. Anthony reckons it's fake news. Ryan Arsenal says that Everton are in for Zaha. We know that. We don't know what else they're going to be doing. Temi says that I'll take him in a heartbeat. It will cost about 18 million, apparently. It would be interesting to see. What would be good is obviously if he came in, did really, really well, and then obviously really annoyed the Chelsea fans. That'd be great. That'd be I'd love that. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't get it. I just don't understand why this is happening. Eric Wee says, I don't mind if he is free, but 20 to 30 million, hell no. I don't think he'll be free. Canoe says, can Chelsea sell? Yes, they can sell. They can sell players. They just can't. They can't register new players. That's all they can't do. Dominic Thompson sold to Brentford. I haven't heard that. Has that happened? Satsu says, did Cech do well when he signed from Chelsea? The thing is, Cech divides a lot of opinions. I think he came in and did fairly well. I think he obviously was a better goalkeeper than we already had. Made mistakes, don't get me wrong, but it was a decent one. Daniel Collins says, bad move. Jay Jones says, I don't want him to come in and try and take free kicks from 50 yards. Praveen says, another Chelsea reject, Cech part 2. Ian says that hopefully this is to deflect attention away from better targets. Possibly, but why are we trying to deflect? With 24 hours. We've got 24 hours left of the window, and we're trying to deflect. Why would we want to do that? Josh Law says he can cover at centre mid. We don't need centre mids. We've got Torreira, we've got Sabas, we've got Guendouzi, we've got Xhaka, we've got plenty of players. Joe Willett, we got these guys. We don't need cover there. Chambers can play there as well. Obviously, Gooner's podcast, our good friend Mike, who's doing a show, by the way, at 6:00 with Kevin Campbell. So please go and check that out. He says, would you rather have take Keane for Iwobi straight swap? Would I take that? He used to be really good when he was at Burnley. Would I take him with Iwobi? Maybe. But it's just getting that to that point of desperation in the transfer window. It really is. And I don't want us to panic by it. We did it with so many players in the past. We did it with Andre Santos. We did it with Danny Welbeck, although it turned out quite good, but it was a panic buy. Let's not. Jack Perry says I'm hysterical. I am hysterical. I'm getting really frustrated that we're not signing a top-class centre-back. It's really frustrating. All sensible thinking's gone out the window now. It's really frustrating. I'm going to click back on what Ornstein said. In fact, let's go on the Arsenic Twitter page and see what they're saying currently. Usually retweets the latest stuff. Chelsea confirmed that Luiz did not train today. We knew that. Nick Mashins, let's get some non-Luiz news. Barring any late U-turns, Eddie Nketiah is going to Leeds ahead of Bristol City. expected to make the move to Ellen Road. That's good news. Let's look at some good news and calm us down. Eddie Nketiah getting game time is fantastic. Leeds, hopefully, there's rumours that he'll be going there because he's going to get more game time. And so that's that. Simon Johnson says, been told that there is truth in the Luiz wanting out of CFC. Apparently, he's worried about number of games he'll get under Lampard. Luiz is among options for Arsenal, working for a centre-back, says David Ornstein. Unai Emery appears to have conceded defeat in AFC's efforts to sign an A-grade centre-back in an interview with Sky Sports. Emery hinted that his first-choice centre-backs this window proved too expensive. Too expensive. I can say it's too expensive. We apparently bid 70-odd million for what's his face, for Upamecano. I don't get how we can say they're too expensive. Ruben Diaz, right? Ruben Diaz, I'm going all hysterical again. Sorry about this. Ruben Diaz has a supposedly €50 million buyout clause. 22-year-old Portuguese centre-back at Benfica. Really, really great prospect. If we've got €70 million to go in for Upamecano, we have to go in for Ruben Diaz. I'm sorry, but when you're going to panic buy David Luiz, why are we not going in for someone like him? It makes no sense whatsoever. Don't think Everton will come back in for Iwobi, says Ryan Arsenal. Solo says, why did we reject 30 million? I can understand why we rejected it. I think it's not enough money for someone who's only 23, has shown that he can do well at Arsenal. I think in this market, 30 million is cheap. Ross Taylor says, Mustafi and Luiz partnership. Come on, let's not ruin this window. Can you imagine David Luiz and Mustafi as our main centre-back pairing? Incredible. Absolute scenes if that happens. Damien says, can't wait for Friday. Hopefully we'll have some hair left, mate. You can see it's falling. It's gone. Ignore the fact I had a haircut earlier today. Willie says, I think whatever that's got to do with the Luiz and Coutinho has to do with Edu and Jero-Chian. Is that his name? Because of the work hand in hand. Is Kajigao still at the club? Because I think Kajigao obviously head of recruitment or he's not head of recruitment. He's up in the scouting setup. Sell Martinelli and buy Luiz. I think sense is going out the window, guys. I really think it is. Connor Bradley says Iwobi is going to be another Lingard where people talk about potential when he's like 27. Maybe so. Tweedledee and Tweedledum would be Mustafi, and Luiz thinks CXV2. Praveen says Arsenal formation on match day 0-0-10. Mate, at this point, I don't know. At this point, I'm really struggling to think what we can do. Let's try and reel myself in for my own benefit and try and talk sensibly then. Let's say that we sign David Luiz. Let's say we bring him in. David Luiz comes in, plays centre-back. Let's think of his good points. He's tall. He wins aerial duels. He's a good set-piece specialist. He wins headers in the box. He's not particularly slow. Negatives, he's rash. He makes silly decisions. His positioning can be off. He sometimes moves out of the defence way too early. He can't get into Chelsea's backline that currently contains Rudiger, Christensen, and Zuma. Can't get in above those three. Do we want to sign someone that can't get in above those three? I'd argue probably not. What's the positive side of this is if you look at what Ornstein said, is that David Luiz is among the options being considered by Arsenal. So the fact that I can take that as a pinch of salt is that the options are being considered clearly means that we've got more than just Luiz on the table. I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10 that it happens because I think we will desperately be going for one. Whether or not it does, we'll have to wait and see. Less than 24 hours to go, people. I'm sure you'll see plenty more of these shows. I'm out this evening, so I doubt you'll see another one until maybe later in the evening. Very late if it is. And that's if anything has broken over the evening. Thank you for tuning in. As I said, please go check out Mike's show with Kevin Campbell at 6 o'clock to fill your boots with some evening entertainment. You can ask questions to Kevin. Go and check that out. It's on the Gooners podcast Twitter account. Go check that out. But thank you for tuning in, everyone. I'll see you again very, very soon. Most likely this evening because nothing seems to sleep at the moment with 24 hours left in the window. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Very much enjoyed today's show, even though I'm pulling my hair out. And as always, up the Arsenal.